Welcome along to South Today's Sport. Another chance to catch up with leading sports journalist Joseph Romano. It's not about the issues of the day so much, but about his illustrious writing career, which has encompassed many books. Let's welcome Joseph back to the studio. Welcome, Joseph.
Thanks, Tom.
What is the book count in total? It's more than 40? And
yeah,
is it
45 or so. Yeah,
incredible.
Yeah.
And which of those are you the most proud?
Oh, this is like asking which of your kids do you like the most. No, I couldn't say. I mean, I did a book, Arthur's Boys, about Arthur Lydiard, and then chapters on Snell and Helberg and Davies and McGee and Bailey and so on, and it hardly sold any. In fact, it was misprinted and it was withdrawn from the market, and then it was put back out and the moment had gone. But I was pretty proud of that book actually, and the people who follow athletics liked it, but it was it's like a cult book. There was only a dozen out there.
So you haven't become a multi-millionaire through the publication
not
of...
New Zealand. No, what you need to do is write books that have a world market, I guess. I did one book that was supposed to have a world market called Sports Rivals, and then the publishers never sold it overseas.
Because I think back to when Mead's book came out, I think 60,000 copies. Are they days gone by?
No, McCaw, 108, 109,000. I mean, that's a freak thing. I don't think that'll ever happen again. But, you know, sometimes the moment's there. If David Kirk had put a book out in 1987, 88, I think that would have sold 70, 80,000 after we'd won the World Cup and he was so popular. He put one out 15 years later and it sold like 12, 14,000. You have to strike just at the right moment, and it has to be the right book as well. And I think McCaw being so popular, the World Cup, he'd had a full career before he did the book.
Because that's the other temptation. They come out sort of mid-career and sometimes they're like picture books with a few words.
Well, Jeff Wilson had a book out when he was 20. Pat Booth did it. It was when he was 20, the golden one or something. I mean, what have you got to say when you're 20?
All right, let's go back to how it all started. You're obviously a prolific reader. What was the first sports book you picked up and engrossed yourself in?
Well, it seems freakish to believe this now, but I snuck into my father's box of books way up in a cupboard when he was out one day, and I pulled out the first book I could get my hand over, and it was the 1955 Cricket Almanac. It had Bob Blair and Frank Tyson on the cover. And so I hadn't read any sports books before, and I sat down and I read that for about a week under my pillow at night with a torch where no one could see. And I was totally engrossed in all these statistics and reading about R. Blunt and C.S. Dempster, and I just loved it. I don't know why. I mean, I hadn't even heard these names before. So I put that back and I pulled out another book from the box, and the next book was called A Cricket Pro's Lot by Fred Root, who played for England in 1926. Not
a bestseller, I suggest.
Oh, I've read that book again since, and it is really turgid. But at the time, I don't know why, but I loved reading about Hobbs and Sutcliffe and Pelham Warner and so on. Anyhow, and it went from there. And what's more, I could remember nearly everything I read, all the statistics.
It's funny how the passion started, because my first book was a gift from my brother, birthday. It was called My Way. I think you know who that's about, don't you? Signed by the man himself, Glenn Turner. And it was for a 10-year-old kid. It was an absolute thrill for someone to actually see the signature.
Yeah.
That was my first book, and the collection started there after that. So it's amazing what starts you off. What about the process of writing a book, if you're doing a biography? What's the response from, for a start, we hear about ghostwriting. How much do you write and how much does the person actually contribute, on average?
Well, I've never ghostwritten a book. I've written Sandra Edge's book, for instance, but it's written in my name. Okay. So I don't, it's not her talking, it's me interviewing her and then writing it. I think it'd be very hard to ghostwrite a book and make it realistic, because how do you put yourself in their language? I mean, I saw Alex Vasey, who was a great writer. He wrote Zinzan Brooks' book, and he didn't sound like Zinzan Brooke to me. It sounded like Alex Vasey. And Terry McLean wrote George Nepier's book, and it certainly didn't sound like Napier talking. So I think that's always a problem. I think you're better to write it in your own language, but in cooperation with a sports subject, and make it a biography if that's the way you want to go.
How common is it, and we've seen it with Martin Crowe, for someone to write their own book, actually write their own book?
I think that's really uncommon. I mean, you'd know as much as me. Jeremy Coney did it, bright guy. Maybe Richard Hadley's done a few of those comical books he does, those funny things which are really just stories he's taken out of his speeches, but not many that I can think of wrote. I mean, the Turner books you're talking about, obviously Brian Turner's writing those. Not many sports people can write their own books.
Some of my favourite of yours are the compilation books, the 100 best of this, the 100 best of that, because you can get a wide range of sporting knowledge, especially about people that you know that we may have never heard of. What's the response when you contact those people? Is everyone cooperative?
Yeah, like I just did one last year, New Zealand, a top 100 Maori sports people, and just for instance, Paul Hinare, the basketball, I rang him and said, look, I'm doing this book and I've put you in the 100, and he was so proud. I mean, it's only but he was so proud to be in the 100, and he couldn't have been more helpful. And then I'd ring a women's softballer and say, look, I've got you in this 100, and she'd be going, well, thanks for thinking of me. And so they were really pleased, actually. I guess the further down you go, the more pleased they are.
Do they ask what number they are before you tell them? No. You're 99 or whether you won?
No, if they did, I'd always say, haven't done the numbers yet, but no doubt you'll be near the top.
And do you get response from the public? Oh, how did you leave that person out? Because that's the immediate thing, is you look at the bottom and see who didn't get in.
You get a little bit of that, but actually that's good, isn't it? Because if people are starting to think that deeply about it, they're actually caring. So that's good. But most of the time, I mean, 100's a lot, isn't it? I mean, if you're not in the top 100...
In New Zealand.
You're a fair way out of it, aren't you?
That Maori one was an interesting one. What about finding out the Maori heritage? Did everyone embrace that?
Nearly everyone. I mean, one of the things I put at the little stats part was iwi. And 99 of them were very proud of their iwi and told me some of them had 3 or 4 tribes. There was one woman, I won't go into it, but one woman who didn't really know her iwi, and I told her, and she said, oh yeah, no, that could be it. So she really had no idea, but everyone else was, look, Waitamanu rang me back and said, look, I'd like you to mention so-and-so as well. I mean, another sub-tribe. So yeah, most of them were very fussed about it.
Shows how advanced we've become in recognising that in recent years.
Yeah, and I was pleased I put it in, actually. Yeah.
No, it's an excellent book. What about a future plan? Anything on the table? I'm
looking to write a book, a top 100 book, history-making moments, not sport, just so 6 o'clock closing, decimal currency, the Wahine disaster, Hillary, whatever. You know, I'm thinking I'd quite like to write that with my daughter, who's a journalist, but I'm finding it quite hard to spark her into action. She's talking a good fight, but I'm not seeing many chapters coming from her end. That
would be a fascinating research project, wouldn't it?
That will be hard to get it down to 100. I mean, you do 100 disasters or 100 gold medals. I mean, you've really got to balance it there.
There will be some sporting moments amongst them, though, wouldn't there?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, I think just as we talk here, the 56 Springbok series would be hard to miss. That World Cup in 2011, the America's Cup when we won it.
The underarm bowling?
The underarm, yes, because they're not all triumphs. No. They're just historic sporting moments.
Things that spark something in
Yeah, so I was thinking, being bowled out for 26 and still in Wisden, you know, there's...
There could be because sport's so important to New Zealand.
The Springbok Tour.
A third could be it. A third could be it.
Yeah, but I'd try and keep it to 15 or so, because there's a lot of other stuff, really, you know. The election of various governments and floating the dollar and lots of things, GST. It's a wide range of stuff, and you wouldn't want to pack it with sport, but you can't ignore it.
We're talking about a lot of work here, aren't we? From conception to actually arriving on the bookshelves. Would you be talking 18 months, a year, 2 years for something like that?
Well, some books you can, I mean, it depends how much time you want to put in. I mean, if I'm really going, and once I'm into it, I'd try and write a chapter a night of those 100. But sometimes it'd take me 3 days to do one, but then I might be able to do the sports one in a couple of hours because I know it well. But if I'm doing something I don't know, I might have to research it for 2 or 3 days before I can write what I think should be written.
And do those 100 people get to proofread it before you publish?
No. Occasionally, I did our top 100 history makers, not sport, just history makers, and I sent chapters to about 10 of them, like Dame Mari Clay, the educationalist, where I wasn't really secure. I felt, and they didn't change much, but even if they changed 5 words, which you had wrong, well, that's great, isn't it? So I sent a few out, but not much. Sometimes I'd get a teacher who's an expert in history, and I might have sent him all the war ones and said, could you look through these, or something like that.
And you're relying on family members to help if they've passed away, obviously?
You're doing your research. Yeah. Same with that Maori book. Yeah, I spoke to quite a few widows and daughters and so on to find out iwi and birth dates and some historic facts. Yeah, you're very much reliant, but that's part of the fun, isn't it? The research.
And I imagine they're quite touched that their family members have been remembered.
Oh yeah, they're at pains to get it right because they're very honoured. They're not honoured because I'm contacting them. They're honoured because they're in a book.
Knowledge, yeah. Oh, fantastic. I'm sure we look forward to the next one. Thanks, Joseph, for spending so much time with us, and we'll catch up with you next time in Wellington.
Radio.
That's the South Today tonight. See you tomorrow.